We have an interesting story that seems to be developing out of California. This was captured by a woman named Anel from north of Santa Barbara. She claims that California is sinking and she has proof. She is waking up to water that is just soaking up from underground and they have no idea what it is. They've called the city, they have gone out there, they've actually tested it, and it's not city water, meaning it doesn't have chlorine or anything like that. They think it's groundwater. From where? They don't know. But it seems to be covering her property and only properties on her side. The other side of the road seems to be dry. Is there something to this story? Is this proof to her theory that California is starting to sink and now we're starting to see those actual signs? Take a look at what she has to say. Look at the video. Tell me what you think. Comment below.
So California is falling into the water, and I have proof. I called the city yesterday about all that water that's coming up out of the ground on our property. And when the lady told me to check our water meter, I pulled the lid off the thing, and it was like almost covered in water. And I Googled it, and it said that that's not normal. Then I called my husband, and I was like, there is water everywhere. So the initial leak that we found is on we'll say the west side of our property. Our water meter is on the east side of our property. So there's water coming up on both sides. And I told him, I called the city, and they just really don't seem to care. But there's water coming from somewhere. It's a lot of water. And it seems to be more and more water too. That's the thing. So he came home from work yesterday and he looked in the water meter and he was scooping out water by the cupful and looking at it. And then he emailed somebody from the water company, not the city, the water company. And then this morning, when I got back from taking the girls to school, there was a guy parked outside. And so I was like, oh, are you here to check on the water situation? He was like, yeah. And I was like, did you see what was going on? And he was like, well, I don't really know what's going on. And I said, well, there's water coming up from the ground and it's wet. And he was like, well, everything is wet, which is fair because we live in just kind of like a wet area. In the morning, it's always misty and foggy and dewy and everything is wet. So really, it's not always noticeable. But I showed him the spot where we noticed where Patrick thought that his truck was leaking. And then I showed him off to the side, there's at least an inch of water. And then I said, and then our water meter is also underwater. And he said, yeah, I checked on that. It filled back up with water, which is not good since Patrick emptied it out last night. He said, your neighbor's water meter is also underwater. And then he was really baffled because he showed me where the water lines are. And there are no water lines where any of this water is coming from. And then he said that he tested the water for chlorine because the city water is chlorinated. And he said that there was no chlorine in it. So I said, is it groundwater? And he said, maybe. He said, it's a thinker. He kept saying that over and over again. It's a thinker. And I was like, okay. Spot is right here. This is the spot in our driveway where Patrick thought that his truck was leaking. And if you go over here, this is where things are getting very soggy. Then if you walk over here to the east side of our property, this whole area is always wet. If you look across the street though, all the dirt and stuff over there is not wet like it is on our side, not even in the morning. So okay, and I'm gonna check the water meter again. See, it is just so wet over here to see if it filled back up with water. Oh, yep, it filled right back up. We emptied it again, and it is full of water again. But look, it's not spinning, so there's no leak.